Whenever I hear, I'm just enjoying the story. I mean, you'd be great by a fucking campfire. Like I'm just sitting up here, I'm like, I'm being quiet because I want to know more.
Okay, bro. So there's these two nightclubs in Macau called DD2 and DD3, and DD2 is the American. I get them mixed up. One is where Americans go, and a lot of Asians, and the other one is a pure triad bar. Only triads go there. People say don't go there; it's dangerous. All this other shit. So whenever I'd go to Macau and hang out with their friends, they wanted to take me to these clubs, and they took me to both DD2 and DD3. And every time I went, I almost got into a fight. And now I know why. The plan was they wanted to test my bravery because they wanted to figure out what kind of scams they could do against me, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that happened was this one girl that was married to a triad boss. We were at the triad club, and I looked over, and there was this big ogre Chinese dude. He was like my size. He was like I'm 6'3", 225. So he was my size, and he went to smack her, but it was like the fakest ass smack. It was like so weird looking. So I'm like, okay, and I was just drunk. I wasn't thinking. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not getting involved.
I don't need you to stay away from drugs.
Oh, I do now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just we don't need you to stop. And they make for exciting stories, but I'm concerned a little bit.
Oh my God, yeah, you don't want to do drugs especially over there.
No, so you saw these two, and the slap didn't look real, but
it looked fake. But then her Vietnamese friends are looking at me like, like, what are you gonna do, right? So I can't be a punk. Not that I was a punk, but I didn't like this girl anyway. So I didn't feel like coming to her. I didn't feel like coming to her rescue regardless. So they're looking at me. So I'm like, fuck, I got to do something. But I'm in the triad bar, so I got to be careful. I can get fucking killed. So I get up and I stand next to the dude, and I just look at him, and he looks at me, and I have zero fear. I just can't be scared of Asian dudes, Asian criminals especially. I don't know what it is. It's just something I just can't. It's programmed into me not to be scared of them. So the guy looks, and I guess he realizes I'm not scared, and he smirks at me. And then we leave, and we go back to her friend's place. And I overheard her friend talking to the husband, who's also a triad, saying he didn't back down like Rox. And Rox was this guy that they were friends with. And I guess they do this shit all the time. I ended up finding out later the plan was if I would have backed down, they were going to get me to sleep with the triad boss's wife. And then they were going to extort me saying he wants to kill you and all this other shit. But once they saw I wasn't scared of the triads, they're like, okay, maybe that's not going to work. So that was one. But then I went to this other bar, the American one, with her Vietnamese friends another time. And we sit down. I order a couple bottles, and I'm there with 5 chicks. And one of the videos is on the website. And these 2 dudes come up, and it just opened. So there was like hardly anybody there. And these 2 dudes come over, and they're standing right next to our table, like within 5 inches of the table, like really close. And they're just like holding a drink, looking down and smiling at the girls. And I'm just like, oh, who are these fucking cheese balls? And then I look over, and the girls give me that look again, like, are you going to do something? I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I said to the dude, I was like, hey, dude, fuck off. And he's like, what? I'm like, fuck off, bitch. So I got up. And then as soon as I stood up and got in the dude's face, there were 2 dudes. It was a black guy and an Indian guy. And that's very relevant. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So these 2 guys.
It sounds like the beginning of a joke, but go ahead.
Exactly.
It's a black guy and an Indian guy. They both walk into a Vietnamese bar.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it wasn't like a hardcore looking black dude either. He looked like he was a little bit of a punk, but it's just like, so it wasn't like
light skin.
Yeah. Hey, Tommy, let's just say he probably didn't drive the Delta 88. You know what I mean?
Hell no.
So anyway, so these guys, they
driving the Impala
or Malibu, right?
Right.
And it's so these guys, they look over and they say, can you believe this guy? And I see they look over to the top of the stairs, and there's 3 Chinese dudes and this blonde-haired Swiss-looking motherfucker with a bobbed haircut. You couldn't forget this guy. He was a fucking like a cartoon. So, and those guys, as soon as I looked over, they quickly they turned their head. They didn't want me to see their face, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever. So the night ended, and I was lit by then. You know, we had a couple bottles, and I was like feeling good. We're leaving the club at 4 a.m., and those 2 dudes are outside, and they're standing there. And I'm like, what's up now, bitch? And then, dude, they looked at me like they were completely different people. They were like, oh, you know, it was like the weirdest thing. Like, so I ended up finding out, like a month later, a buddy of mine said, dude, you can't go to DD2, like the Triad Club anymore. These 2 guys that work with Anthony at the Wynn, these 2 cooks, they got 3 months ago, they got beaten within an inch of their life, and they were like eating out of a tube for a month. One of them was, at least. So they almost died. And he was like, you know, those 2 cooks over at the Wynn? I'm like, because we used to go eat at the Wynn all the time. And I said, what cooks? He said, yeah, you know, the black guy and the Indian guy. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I'm like, no, I don't know them, but there was a black guy and an Indian. And then he's like, no, it can't be the same guys. He's like, these guys are really mild-mannered, and all they do is they go to the clubs and they wait until the club closes, and they hope a drunk girl's going to walk out that they can hook up with. Tommy, I just told you these guys were standing out there fucking waiting for drunk girls to hook up with. These were the same fucking guys. But the thing that happened was these guys got beaten with an inch of their life, and they became the Triad's bitch. And then 2 months later, when they were healed, they're in the club, and the Triads probably needed somebody. And they probably said, hey, do us a favor. Go fucking fuck with that guy. Go, like, maybe pick up his bottle and pour yourself a drink or do some shit, right? So these guys, that's why they said, hey, can you believe this guy? Like looking over, almost like
they were trying to get you into a fight.
Yeah, the Triads were trying to see how I would react to 2 guys, like coming up and doing something to me rather than one.
So they were trying to see if you were punk.
What's that?
So they were just trying to see if you were punk.
Yeah. It was another punk test. Because the first time I just stood next to the Chinese guy and he smirked at me. So it didn't escalate enough for them to really figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. So that was that. And then now the blonde-haired dude comes relevant later because 4 months later, I was visiting her friends. And when right before I was leaving Macau, her friends, like 6 of them, they're like trying to get me to smoke ice like every 2 seconds, like just giving it to me. I'm like, whoa, that's enough. They wanted me to be high off my ass, right? And her friend, one of the friends and the husband were supposed to fly back to Vietnam with me, and I bought the tickets for all of us, and I put us all together. And then at the last second, the day before we left, the friend said, "Oh, we got to go to China tonight. We'll meet you at the airport tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." So when I'm leaving the next day, high as shit, right? I get on the ferry, and her friend gave me a bag and said, "Give this to my sister at the airport." And the bag had a necklace, some money, and an iPhone. I'm like, okay, whatever. When I was 10 minutes into the ferry ride, I got a phone call from the Triad husband, and he said, "Dude, we're not meeting you at the airport. I'm really sorry. I feel horrible. But I got to tell you something. We've been scamming you since day one. Your son's mother's been scamming you. Everyone's been scamming you, and you're going to have a huge problem in the next 24 hours. So, dude, I was going fucking nuts. I'm calling my ex. I'm like, "You fucking whore." And I'm like, and she's like, "I don't know what's going on. I didn't do," and she's denying everything. Right. So I get off the ferry and I get on the train to go to the Hong Kong airport. And then, and I'm calling my ex, and I'm going nuts, dude. It was almost like a mental breakdown. It was the biggest fall from grace ever. Like, I thought these were my friends. I thought that my son's mother, I thought we loved each other. Everything was just like, it was like a
Did
fall.
You really think y'all loved each other when you was fucking all her friends?
No. Well, yes and no. And here's why. I had a buddy that told me that all guys fuck around on the women over there, and the women don't really care too much. But she's the one that came to me and said, "Listen, I feel bad because you're bored here in Vietnam. Just don't fall in love, but you can go have fun with my friends."
And and you still didn't know at this time. We got to preface this. He still didn't know at this time that the woman had been sleeping with somebody while she
didn't know none of that.
Didn't know any of this. So
and my son by now is like 5 months old, right? So I go and I get off the train, and the triad husband of her friend calls me again. He's like, "Oh, where are you?" I said, "I'm at the airport." He's like, "Really?" Reason being, the fuckers were tracking my phone. They knew exactly where I was. I got off on the wrong stop and didn't realize it. So I had to hurry up and get back on the train. And then I go and I get to the airport. I barely made the flight, right? And it was a jumbo 747. It was only 10% capacity. I've never seen a jumbo that empty. And when I go to sit down, there's the two seats next to me that I bought for her friends that didn't come. There was an old Vietnamese guy and a lady sitting in those two seats. I'm like, what the fuck? So I sit down and the guy says to me, he's like, did you have fun visiting the girls in Macau? And I'm like, how do you know I was in Macau? Because I mean, I was flying out of Hong Kong. Only about 5% of the people flying out of Hong Kong were coming from Macau. I mean, they're mostly coming from Hong Kong. And then he says to me, yeah. So where are you from? I said, and I was from Los Angeles at the time. I said, Las Vegas, because I already knew something was up, so I was testing him. And he's like, oh, Los Angeles. I'm like, no, Las Vegas. He said, oh, Los Angeles. I said, dude, I said, how much is it going to cost to let one girl go? And he looked at me and I said, you're a pretty powerful guy, right? And he smirked and he said, 1,200 US. And I was like, okay, motherfucker. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I may look like some fucking naive modeling motherfucker. I said, but I promise you, the second I know I have an enemy, I will focus on you. I will fucking destroy you, bitch. Get ready to lose. So I got up, took my suitcase into the back bathroom, thinking they had to have planted drugs in my suitcase. It must be hidden in the liner, and I just made it through security somehow. How am I going to have a problem in 24 hours if that guy's even telling the truth? But too much shit was going on. So I go in there, and within 30 seconds of me going in the bathroom, I guess they told the flight attendant that I ran into the bathroom with my suitcase. Flight attendant, bang, 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 bang. Sir, what are you doing in there? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the bathroom. You're like, well, somebody said you took your luggage. I'm like, yeah, I'll be out in a minute. They're like, no, you got to come out now. I'm like, I'll be out in a minute. I'm taking this shit. And so the guy, they kept banging and I kept looking, but I couldn't find any drugs. So, but I had that necklace and I had that phone. So I flushed that necklace down the toilet. Thank God I did, dude. It was the necklace was, I ended up finding out a few years later, the necklace was stolen from a museum. That was part of the setup, right? And but I couldn't get rid of the phone. The phone wouldn't fit down the fucking toilet with that blue shit. You know, the toilets are not big enough to fit an iPhone. Mm-hmm. So I shoved the iPhone into the toilet paper liners, and I opened the door, and I said, lucky for me, it was 4 gay guys, right? Like 4 gay Australian flight attendants, and it's like, and they're standing. I'm like, dude, I know this looks bad. I said, let me tell you what happened, and I told them what happened, and I said, listen, I was in there looking for drugs. I said, because I thought they planted drugs, but I couldn't find any. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but those 2 motherfuckers should not be sitting in those seats right there. I bought tickets for other people. Go check their tickets. They shouldn't be in that seat. This guy called me, said, I'm going to have a problem. I don't know what the hell's going on. And I said, can you do me a favor? Can you call the police and have them waiting? He's like, oh, yeah, we already did. We have to in situations like this, which becomes relevant. So he's like, just sit back here. So I sit down in the back of the plane, which is like pretty much empty, I told you. And I see these 4 guys. It was like 4 or 5 guys. They move 3 seats back, all 4 or 5 of them at one time. They wait a couple minutes. Then they move a few more seats back. And, dude, I swear to God, it was choreographed. And then about 10 minutes later, they're all close to me. And I looked up at the flight attendant. I said, dude, what the fuck's going on? He's like, I don't know. This is weird. But the flight attendants didn't want to say anything to them. But you know what? You know who one of the dudes was?
Who?
That blonde motherfucker, the Swiss dude with the bobbed hair from 4 months ago at the club.
Really?
It was him, the same motherfucker, right? So we land in Ho Chi Minh City, and the flight attendant says,
next time you tell me what one of the people involved, one of the principals involved, the ancillary people in the story, you got to let me do the voice because you're not doing it and you're not being racist enough. And I need you to be like, so I was talking to the guy and the guy was like, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a bigger problem. I'm going to need that because I don't like when you're giving them Americanized voices. I think that is more racist than just giving them the voice they deserve. So I'm going to do it, the voiceovers, whenever you get to those parts. So go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you that. So then everybody exits the plane before me, but dude, I know, hey, Tommy, I swear to God, I'm telling you the truth on everything. I think you can see the authenticity coming across. Trust me, I was a successful attorney. I'm coming on here saying I was banging hookers and doing drugs. It's like, so, I mean, it doesn't get any more honest than that. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I've always been like that, so it is what it is. I mean, I'm not telling any lies here. I promise you. And my website has I have all the receipts. I mean, everything, the pictures, the videos, screenshots. I have receipts.
Do you have any of those videos of those times you were spending with those ladies of the night, though, is all I want to know.
Oh, yeah. There's a few. I have one. I have one with like a little 4'10" one, like walking on my back when I was in there. I
don't want to see her walking on your back. I want to see more than that.
No, all you can see is my forehead. Don't worry.
No, I'm trying to get the real footage, but
yeah, no, I don't have any of that. No, I don't know, but it's just. But so there's these two guys standing in the exit row, dressed as Buddhist monks, and I quickly look out the window to see, like, I'm like, okay, Ho Chi Minh City Airport. Is there like a view of the mountains or some bullshit? Like, why are these guys standing in the exit row waiting? And I looked, and there was just like the trolley way. There was no view, no reason. They weren't waiting for anything. They were obviously waiting for me. So I said, hey, dude, get the fuck off the plane. And they looked at me really angry, and they got out. Number one, they weren't real Buddhist monks, I'm sure. But the plan was for them to leave after me because they were going to witness me moving something from one pocket to the other. So the whole thing was so detail oriented and planned. But so as soon as I walk out of the airplane, there's 15 cops lined up in the walkway that like walks into the airport. What do they call that? The corridor, whatever the hell it is.
I know what you're talking about, but I know there's a name for it, and I don't know it.
Yeah, I'm hitting a mental block. But it's so they're standing there, and as soon as I walk out, now remember, I was pretty wired at the time too. My heartbeat's going, everything's going. I walked out, I'm like, did you get those fucking guys? And like I came out like a fucking lion, right? And they were probably expecting some dude to walk out all meek, like, oh my God, there's cops here. So as soon as I walked out, I saw these like most of the cops just smiled and stood back, like, holy fuck. And then the guy comes up and talks to me that speaks English, one of the cops. And I told him, I said, hey, that guy was there. He shouldn't have been in the seat. And I'm talking. And he's like, wait here. So he goes in, he talks to the pilot.
Wait here.
What's here?
There you go. We go do it. He did not say it the way you said it. You'll wait here. I go.
Yeah, I think that's more. Yeah, that's like a more of a Chinese or a Japanese one. Yeah, the Vietnamese guys don't sound like that. But whatever. No, we'll run with that though, because most of the people.
I don't know any other accent. I don't know. So sorry for your mother.
Yeah. I feel sorry for your mother. What was that off of? Like that was off one of those old. That's off of like
don't be a menace,
Central or something.
A menace to society.
Menace. Yeah. I knew. I couldn't remember the name of the movie, but I remembered it. But so anyway, the cop goes in. He comes out and he has that phone that I had shoved in where the toilet paper was, and he was like, "Yeah, here's your phone." I said, "Ain't my phone, dude." And he's like, no, it's your phone. You got to take it. I said, listen, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I told him the story that I said that I'm supposedly being set up and this and that. And I said, that's not my phone, and I'm not taking it. And he's like, you got to take the phone. I'm like, I'm not taking it. He's like, take the phone. I'm like, fuck you. I ain't taking the phone. So he eventually relented. And I told him, I said, you keep it, dude. I said, my gift to you. And at the time in Vietnam, it was $1,000 US to buy an iPhone. So that's like 4 months salary for that dude. And I was just saying, you take the fucking phone, right? And the reason he wanted me to take the phone so bad, I ended up finding out later, was the phone was an exact clone of my phone, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing they and then, okay, I'll tell you what, in 30 seconds, I'll get to that. But before that, the airplane pilot comes out then, and we start walking towards customs, and he's walking with me. He said, just stay calm. Don't worry. I'm not pressing charges. I'm like, why the fuck would you press charges against me? He's like, we're required to in this situation. Not suggested, we are required to. But he said, I refuse to press charges against you, though, because I believe you. And so the plan was to get me taken in one of those rooms, like
You
where
gotta
they
be like
question
the
you.
luckiest man.
Dude, I'm lucky as fuck. You have no idea.
You keep getting in the fuck shit
You
and
have
then
no
getting
idea.
out of the
Tommy,
fuck shit.
this isn't even 10% of the story of my luck. And it's just so we're walking, and then I go. So now they were going to take me to a holding room if the guy would have pressed charges. That's all he needed to do is say, okay, I'm doing what you require me to do. I sign off, I press charges. But he wouldn't do it, so they couldn't arrest me. So the plan was to arrest me, take me into one of those rooms, turn on that phone when I'm not looking, because it was an iPhone 4S at the time, because that's the newest iPhone back in 2011. So I had an iPhone 4S, and the cloned phone that I didn't know was cloned. Her friend just said, give it to my sister at the airport, was the same exact phone, same color, same everything. They were planning on turning on the cloned phone and handing it to me and saying, is this your phone? And I would have looked at my contacts, my messages. I would have saw my mom. I would have saw whatever. I would have been like, yeah, that's my phone. And they would have said, are you sure that's your phone? Yes, that's my phone. And I would have said, it's mine. But guess what was hidden on that cloned phone? Child pornography.
I kind of figured it.
Yep. So that was the plan.
It's hard to tell in Asian countries because you can't tell if it's children or adults.
Oh, no, dude. No, well, no, I didn't put those pictures on there.
No, I was just saying it.
Oh, okay, you're being funny.
Asian
Okay, no, but they did the no, you're right about that though. But they did, so they had an exact clone of my phone, but they had a bunch of pictures added to it that had all this shit on there, So I got out of that, and I went home that night, got in a big fight with my ex, threw her across the room. I was going crazy, and then the shit really started, dude. Everybody on that street that looked at me with a smile for that first year, they all started looking at me with hatred because they knew I was a mark. The whole fucking town knew I was a mark, and they were waiting for my downfall, but I beat that scam and I got away. And so my home office didn't have windows. They would smash bricks off of off of the wall like every 5 minutes. Anytime I went outside, there were a bunch of people at this coffee shop that had smart devices. They were hacking my devices. It was fucking insane. So now,
in the comment section said they did the exact same thing that happened to you to a guy by the name of Pete Townsend. So apparently this is a thing.